Do you wanna know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Remax Palm Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in beautiful Northport, Florida. And we survived yet another close call. And I got to tell you how proud I am of how our city is operating and what they did in the EOC to make sure all of the citizens here in Northport are well taken care of. Just a lot of pride coming from me. And our city staff is amazing. We need to give them kudos and spread the word. And I also have a real special guest and a good friend in the house, Mr. Jerome Fletcher. How are you doing, Jerome?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm not doing too bad. So we've got an update from the Sarasota EOC. You were there and kind of participated in an update there. Can you kind of give us an overview of that?
Yeah, so the focus of the update that I went up there for was for Fuller Power and Light. As you know, there are some people who are north of us who experienced a lot worse than Northport did. And to your point in the beginning of your conversation, this is the third storm that's come around us. And every time it seems to have gotten closer and closer, whether you're talking about Debbie or Helene or actual Milton. And we've been very blessed and fortunate to have not gotten in any of those worst case scenarios. But I think everyone knows and is aware, not only the people who are still without power here in our city, but countywide in the northern part of our county are dealing with some tremendous loss. And FP&L had about a third of their customers go out while this storm had hit. And yesterday morning, we as a city were 80% of our citizens were without power. And now that number is down to about 18%. So FP&L has been working, not only what you see during the day, but what they have done overnight. And just because you may not see them working within your particular street, know that they're working behind the scenes to get that 18% back up as soon as possible. So the purpose of this meeting was to not only give feedback, but to exchange ideas with myself, the county administrator, the other city managers in the area, including Longboat Key. Longboat Key, we know that, when Siesta Key, where the storm made landfall, they really are impacted by that space in which the hurricane came towards them. So I really think this is a moment where hearing everyone else across the table talk about, what they were going through and how they were dealing with it. And we, as you said, I am so grateful for our team and what they did for here in the city of Northport. I do believe that they stepped up to the challenge. And I do believe we were as prepared as we could have been. And I do believe that the citizens should know that if something like that would have hit us harder, then we would have been in react in a way that they would have expected us to. And I think that's what you should expect of your government. And hopefully that's what they know that we're providing to them. But from the standpoint of power, we had a wind event here more than anything. We got a lot of wind, not a whole lot of rain, which was good because our grounds were already so saturated from the rains that we had, and let alone some of the other rains that we got from the other storms. But the wind event is what occurred here so much. And as you go around the city and you see the debris around, and it's definitely not as much debris as we've seen in the past, but it's enough debris for us to, collect it and get rid of it in a normal manner, as opposed to contracting out a third party team to come in and remove the debris this year. So it was a great meeting. We were glad to talk to FP&L leadership, knowing that they were behind us and knowing that the FPL infrastructure, for the most part, did exactly what it was supposed to do during this storm. Later on this afternoon, FP&L is going to put out information that tells exactly when they think that the infrastructure that is still not have power to it will regain power. So they didn't have that at the meeting, but they said they would put it out later today. And I think that anyone who doesn't have power or knows someone who doesn't have power should make sure they pay attention to that report so that we can figure out where they are on the list. Even in my community, half the people have power, half the people don't have power. It all depends on, what your transformer is set up to and what it's set up to power to. And if it's on and working based on them turning the switch back on or getting it repaired, then it's working. If not, then you might be using a generator or, waiting patiently for it to come back on. But we all know that not having power is not convenient for anyone, and we want to get it done as soon as possible. And I can assure you that FP&L says and shares that same feeling.
So we're staying in close contact and making sure everything that we can get here as a city, we're capturing. We've got the point of distribution at San Pedro Church, and that's at 14380 Tamiami Trail, with tarps and all kinds of stuff there. People should really get their information, one, from the city website, and two, talk to each other, be neighborly, and be the community of unity that I know that we've been preaching. You've been preaching since you've been here. This is the time for that to expose itself.
I cannot stress how much, we need to take care of each other in this time of need. I saw people in my neighborhood, neighbors helping neighbors, put up shutters, put up, other barriers. Some of our neighbors left their homes, but, in these kind of moments are when you really step up and show how much you care about your quote unquote community or your neighbor. And I've been very, very pleased with the response that I have seen. I would just say that, as we continue to go through this, and, power is such an important topic for a lot of important reasons, it's great to know that you're dealing with a company that actually communicates with you before, during, and after the event. It's easy for the vendor to miss one of those windows. And based on the website information that you mentioned from under Jason Bartolone, who's done a great job of communicating, and you work with him a lot, over the last couple of days and getting information out. We've tried to, just drown everyone with information that we know when we know it, so that they could find it and make it most useful. So the website is a great place for information. But as long as people can just remember that, this is a natural disaster. This is not designed to be a time where everything is working the way that you would think it would work. We just got to make sure that we have the right people and processes in place that we can get back up to where we need to be as soon as possible.
I kind of want to talk about everyone collectively on the social media side of things. A lot of bad information goes out there. Let's address a couple things real quick, and I'll kind of fire away. But the bulk pickup and the trash collections, people are concerned about those too. And health and hazardous, the trash has to be picked up first, and we know that. So next week we're starting with regular trash pickups again, correct?
Correct. So if you go to our website, we have a bulk pickup debris and yard waste category. It says, bulk pickups are currently paused. They're rescheduling on October 21st. Thankfully, since we did not see the amount of hurricane damage from Milton, like I said, the essential debris management resources are needed throughout the Southeast to address other places who have hit harder than us. Yard waste pickup will be completed in conjunction with normal operations over the next several weeks. What that means is, for people who may say, okay, what does all that mean? What that means is that we got a scenario that was a lot better than our worst case scenario. And we're able to sort of take care of ourselves without spending extra money and millions of dollars right now, which, of course, again, we've been talking about the city and its financial ability to recover from a hurricane. So we want to make sure that we take care of ourselves in that manner and not have to go out and bring another contractor in. And we believe that we can do that based on the volume of debris that is scattered throughout the city. But it'll take a little bit of time in the process, and people's patience is definitely necessary, but we believe it's the best thing to do based on the damage we received.
Well, and Pam Kotarz was asking, can you please address the city's decision about debris removal?
Yeah. And I think I just did.
You did. And
right.
you talked to me about the mind reading, and you just right. read the minds. But here's the beautiful thing is that you're staying ahead of the game, and and I mean you as the city, you're managing this whole thing. How do you feel that we're addressing all the needs of the citizens?
Well, I mean, that's a lot. That's a
It
lot to
is.
answer for. The first thing you need to do is you need to start with the empathy of what would you like done for yourself if you were in that exact same situation. How would you like someone to treat you? How would you like for them to communicate with you? How would you like for them to prepare you and prepare the infrastructure and the services that they depend on a daily basis? So when you have all those different scenarios and all those different activities, we have, and I will say this again with relief in my heart, but a sadness in my voice. We have been very fortunate over these last 3 storms to have not gotten the full force of those storms. And thanks to our emergency management manager, Stacy Alicio, she has prepared our team each and every time, better to get closer. And this is, she's been with us a little over a year now. So this is her first time going through these here in the city of Northport. So each time you get a little bit closer to the real thing. Milton was certainly the real thing, and we were all in our EOC respective positions, prepared and ready to handle it. And now I think that we are clearly ready for whatever storms may throw at us. The only thing that we have to worry and wonder about is how big it is and how do we react to it. But when you have the process in place and then the people in place, I think it gives everyone a high level of comfort for that we have things covered.
And I'm kind of going to interject just a tad into this, because I've now been, and I said this the other day, I've been at the EOC now twice in the capacity of getting information out, doing the podcast out, getting the radio station feeds out and all those things. But as a citizen, I went through a lot of hurricanes before I developed this into part of my, I guess, my hurricane preparedness side of things now.
Right.
There are 2 different things that people need to know. John Rawlings, the citizen, did not know anything about the EOC before this. John Rawlings, the person I am today, appreciates every single management style that gets interjected into an EOC. And I got to tell you, I've worked in the hospitals, I've worked at trauma centers, I've done all kinds of things in my life. It is a different beast. It is a different management style. It is 100% a team, beyond team effort. I am so proud of each moment that I've gotten to spend with the staff and you. To me, our city needs to be pounding its chest that we have the 100+ years of experience that you tout, and that experience pays off in crisis situations. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So, we just had our first graduation class at the Northport University, and as they did graduate, I told them, you're learning how to speak government, and we talk it very well and we talk it very often. And when you say, John, the citizens don't know what EOC means, I'm like, oh, you know what, you're probably right. So our Emergency Operations Center is what EOC stands for, and that is a situation where you have just about every department covered within the room, but they're not doing their regular roles in their assignments. You might have someone in finance doing planning. You might have someone in HR doing logistics, and you're trained for your roles so that each and every person who signs up to be an employee at the city of Northport knows that you will have an emergency role when that time comes. Now, that varies throughout the people. Some people have exceptions when the time comes, like say if you're a mother who has a newborn and you need to breastfeed or something, or someone has an ailing father who may have dementia and they need special care and attention, but you work with your supervisor to make sure that not only you are accounted for, but any role that you have in our emergency operations team is accounted for as well, because the last thing we need to do is to be looking for people to fill roles during an emergency. So is that sort of push down from the top that gets people understanding what they need. And then you combine that with the leadership that you just referenced, and you combine that with having a strong emergency manager. And Stacy came from Lee County, and she was down there during Ian. Her deputy was in Lee County as well, and he came here after Ian. And then their boss, who was in Lee County, is now actually the Sarasota County emergency management director there too. So this strong foundation of people and experiences, which sometimes you can't get, but going through an emergency, that's the only way to get it, is very helpful to our city and the relationship that they bring with Sarasota County, which is one that I am always very aware of, and I will always be very invested in to keep as strong as humanly possible. It only makes us better partners together. So then you lean on other people's experience that you don't have. I'm going to go up to the Sarasota County EOC back there tomorrow. So Julie Belia from our office has been there, but I want to go there and see and learn and figure out how I can improve our operations just by seeing some of their operations. So it's a time where we truly have dodged the bullet, as I say here in the city of Northport. And I don't mean that to minimize anyone's circumstances, but just to put it in perspective of what could have happened. So now we need to get back to the county. So I'm going to try to go get back to the county. I hope people who are listening who have time or financial resources, please reach out to the county and donate and do what you can, because they are in need. If some of you might remember when we had Ian, and Ian hit Northport really hard, and then you drove 20, 25 minutes up the road and people were sitting down eating Chick-fil-A, like, you know, it was like a bad little storm had passed through. And I feel like that's what's happening now. They've caught the bad end of it. We haven't. So we need to be there for them when they need us. So anyone who's listening, please, please reach out to Sarasota County and figure out how you can contribute, because they need it.
I have another question, Rich Suggs. Hey, Rich. Any word on possible flooding or fresh water from the rain north of us? I know Chuck Speak has done an amazing job. I mean, an amazing job. Public Works is all over this with our canals. Can you? I know you've probably gotten a quick update from him.
Yeah, actually, two things. One, you know, the fire chief Titus called me this morning and said they were watching some areas that were over out in the estates, which had gotten a little bit more water than we were expecting, faster than we were expecting it. So they were trying to figure out sort of where that came from and how to make sure that it didn't sort of disrupt the states any quicker than we had. But also, we've known, and I think Saturday was the arrive time that I had predicted, that the water from the north was going to come down here. It is going to come down here. Let's be clear. But I'm grateful, as you said, you know, Chuck has our water levels as well as possible. The rain from Milton was not as bad as anything that we've seen. We've seen probably more rain in our extremely wet rainy season this year. I think our water from the rainy season is almost double of what it is in a normal year. So we really got fortunate to not get that much more rain dumped on us. I think what you'll see, back to the question, is that we're going to have an amount that is manageable. I don't think that you're going to see areas that should end up flooding into property damage. But if we see water that, you know, that comes up and is a swell or ponding, we know that it should move its way out. That's one thing Chuck Speak, who you referenced, has said since we began this about 6 or 7 days ago now. It's been a while. Has said that we are in the best position possible. And then the lack of rain, I think that we're expected to get over today, tomorrow, and the weekend. I mean, all of that's going to help us out as we prepare for that water coming from up north. So we think we're in a really good spot. And,
you know, we had some crises averted, I think, with the shifting of the storm, with the potential rain that we were supposed to have. We're already at record-setting paces for this year in the state, let alone, you know, what we could have received here in the city.
Right.
I've driven the city. I've looked at the city. I know that during the crisis, while I was in the EOC, I got updates from Chief Titus, who went out, double-checked, had crews out there assessing and giving feedback, so that and that's truly what the EOC is all about. Right. When we're under those conditions. And I want to take your position for a second, and I want you to clarify, as the city manager, where do you fit in the EOC? Talk about that command.
So, so during the EOC, the city manager is not in charge. It is the incident commander, who is in our case our emergency manager, and that's Stacy Alicio. She is the one guiding the team in that room. She has meetings and trainings with them before they get there. Everyone knows their role. They're broken into A and B, Alpha and Bravo shifts. They have the support of the entire group that's in the room. Some of the people you have support of are, off on different locations, whether it's a dock for utilities or public works that may not have all of their staff in the room. So every single person that's working in the EOC is not necessarily in that room, but that's a room of about, 30 people or so, where I come in there to make sure that our incident commander has all the cooperation and the resources that she needs to lead in a way that is effective to get us to the result that we want. One thing that me and Deputy City Manager Yarbrough try to make sure that we do specifically is not get in the way. It is a situation that if you let your ego take over your actions, then you are going to not be as successful as you want to be as it relates to making sure that there is cohesion in the room, there is communicating with compassion in the room, there is the ability to share information freely in the room. They have a very good atmosphere of learning and knowing that while there's a disaster outside, it doesn't even mean there needs to be a disaster inside. So they try to keep it lighthearted, whether they're joking or drinking coffee or doing something that keeps their energy up as they rotate in between shifts. It is a delicate environment, but my pleasure and joy is I don't think I can think of one person who did not honestly want to be there. And that's the beginning part of how the EOC runs well. You have to have the passion to be there. And if you don't have the passion to be there, then that's something that you should address before you get there. Because if you have your mind on a loved one or a concerned one or a pet, and you can't give your focus in this environment, it's not going to work. So that's why we try to make sure that we stay in contact with the people who are in there so that they can hopefully be under the best peace of mind that they can to do the best work that we need.
I went to the first one with Helene, and I made some adjustments during that because that was my first. I then got to come to the second, and I made adjustments on the fly from my standpoint, trying to assist the city and the citizens on information. While I was doing all that, how do you, as a city leadership, how do you address improvements that you think you have to make now that you've been through it again?
So we have so believe it or not, we had a mini debrief after Helene, and we said, okay, so now we'll take that back to the team in about a week or so and sort of push that out and make some changes. We didn't have a week or so. It just didn't give us that time. So we had to huddle up briefly and say, okay, these are the things that happened during Helene, and this was before Milton came. And we said there was like 4 or 5 things that cannot happen again. We need to fix these things right now. And then you put someone assigned to making sure that those things are actually resolved during this time. And that's how you know that they're going to get done. It is a constant learning experience. I don't think any storm or any situation is a one size fits all. Each storm or occurrence seems to have its own individual fingerprint that it will leave on us, whether we like it or not. But we have to self-reflect, and you have to be able to come back and say, okay, these are the things that we did well. These are the things that we want to do better. And when you do those things that you want to do better, you make sure that you approach people in a way that is professional and respectful. Because I told the team when we started this week, I was in Greensboro. This was a long time ago. And, I think we were going through a snowstorm, and I saw relationships that had been built for years and years end because of how someone treated someone else during an emergency. And after it was over, the person never forgot, and they held on to it, and it was gone from there. You never want to ruin relationships in the course of trauma that we're all going through. So it is very hard, but it is very important to make sure that as you give feedback, as you find things to do better, as you give that constructive criticism, that it comes from a place of compassion and not from a place that is designed to harm somebody or hurt their feelings.
And as you can see, if you're new to the Facebook feed, I do take questions or comments So if you're listening now and you've never done it before, feel free to put it up there. Kudos. You can put anything you'd like up there appropriately, of course, but please feel free to join us in the discussion and address any issue or question you may have about this event that you may have gone through that you don't feel is being addressed. Because this is also a good way for you, the city manager, to hear from the citizens on what you can do to get better at it too, right? As far as the EOC collectively.
Yeah, I mean, I think our city is not short on opinions. I can say a lot of things about our cities, but there's a lot of opinions out there. But we have a lot of people out there. We have 100,000 people out there, so we're always interested in hearing from the vast group of people that make up our unique city. But at the same time, this is one of many ways to reach us as a government unit. Social media, our communications manager Jason Barlone deals with a lot of feedback from our social media. Our website, we deal with a lot of feedback on the website. Our North Report app, what are we doing? And need to do better there. I just talked to a citizen late last night, and he was still trying to resolve an issue from code enforcement that was between him and two neighbors. And it was almost like the hurricane didn't even exist. I was like, I thought he was going to get to something about the hurricane related. Eventually, he never did. It was not even about the hurricane. So, people still have regular concerns and things that need to be resolved, even though you're going through it. But your government must be accessible. You got to be able to meet the people where they are and try to make multiple communication outlets available to people, because everyone's going through something different than you are at every given time.
I know that you addressed this at the beginning, but for those people who are joining in now, power, as you said earlier in the broadcast, power is essential at this point for people. And FPL, you had an update from the EOC at Sarasota County through FPL. Can you just highlight that again?
Sure. So it was the Florida Power and Light CEO is the gentleman who addressed our group, and he addressed the county administrator and all the other city managers and one of their elected officials throughout our area. Their point in addressing us was to hear feedback, like you just said. Now, I'm going to be honest, receiving feedback while you're in the middle of the disaster and knowing that some of it could be negative is a bold move. Normally you wait to debrief afterwards, but not while you're in the middle of it. But I thought they all handled it very well. I thought the county said that they were very impressed with the response that we were going through this time, as opposed to something that may have happened last year. And, that's built on the relationship with Devani Iglesias, who is our contact from FPNL. She also happens to be the EDC's chairwoman at the time, and she's doing a great job there. So she's connected with us throughout the entire year. And that's what makes that relationship so good. We know she cares because she's living in our community area and making an impact to make our economic development better. That is phenomenal. And she's doing it for her second year in a row. And I applauded her for doing it. But, as we started off with 80% of our population without power, and now that number is down to 18%, FPNL will be putting out a report later today for those who don't have power, or those who are near people who don't have power. In my neighborhood, it's almost like it's not every other house, but it's like every 4 houses don't have power. And it's based on the transformer that they're connected to. So about half of our neighborhood doesn't have power. And it's one thing not to have power and have to deal with it. It's another thing to look across the street and see that your neighbors have power and you have to deal with that. That's a total different feeling. And I don't wish that upon anyone. But that actual that actual information that comes out from FPNL later today, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be on their website, which I believe is fpl.com, should be able to give people a better information exactly of narrowing down and drilling down into closer pieces of our community and letting them know when their power will be restored. But we're talking a lot of power outages overall that they're dealing with, but we believe we're being supported well.
So you've got a big undertaking with doing all of the things that you do, and staff has the same responsibility once these storms pass. How does off season, us Buckeye fans, we look at as far as football, we have off season, and we see change outs, we see builds, we see different coaches coming in and out, and strategies change. How does that work within an EOC in the off season?
So the EOC in the off season is a great time to make sure that people have the industry design training certifications that allows them to be able to reply to the demands of an emergency during the emergency without having to sort of think about it on the fly. It's also a time to change software. It's also a time to make sure that your systems are correct in place. It's also a time to make sure that your manuals, your COOP plans, which are your continuity of operation plans, are in place, so everyone knows their role. And this is what I mean by saying you get it set up before you get there. I mean, like, Stacy and her team, her deputy Mike, they're working throughout the year to make sure people are tuned in and plugged in so that when it happens, someone can't say, oh, we have Hurricane Milton here on October the 9th. But last time you talked to me about emergency management was on February the 5th. That's too big of a gap. People don't retain that sort of knowledge and training for something that they only see, hopefully, once, twice a time a year. And this has been a little bit more active hurricane season since I've been here. Milton was coming and they were saying it was a once in a century storm. And I said, wait a minute, I thought Ian was once in a century storm. It's only been 3 years. How many once in a century storms can we have? So we are going through a time where the volume of what we're having to deal with is just increasing. So if we just keep making sure that you take advantage of the off season, then you can be as best prepared. But there's several factors that go into it. And just to correct you, sir, in football, there is no off season, either in football season or you're waiting for football season. Those are the two seasons in life. So
that's true. That's true.
Right.
And don't be picking on my football stuff now. We
go Buckeyes. Go Buckeyes.
The Buckeye stuff. But here's the thing. You are the coach of your team, but you have great assistant coaches all around you. That's how I kind of look at every time you go to a Northport Forward United Tour meeting. People need to understand you're bringing your coaching staff and your team members with you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance? The citizens out there that haven't gone to a United Tour event, you do tout your team.
Yes.
Because collectively, moments like a hurricane, you do want talented people, and we have them.
Yes. So our team, which is just phenomenal, we have such a great and experienced team. But what I love about our team the most is our consistent culture of leadership excellence. We have a bar set in this city of what we expect to deliver to these citizens, and we are not lowering that bar. We want to make sure that bar stays high. We want to make sure that when people look at the city of Northport, we want people to say, you know what, they have the most talented team collectively in our area. And that should be a fact, because that's what we want. And not that it's a competition with the county or Sarasota City or Venice, but isn't it? Yeah. I think it is.
It is.
Because I want us to be known as the best. And when I go out and we talk to our people in our community, we want them to feel safe and secure with us. And in order to do that, you have to be visible, you have to be present, you have to answer questions, you have to take things that you may not want to take, but that's part of how you get there. And I think that what sets us apart, or anyone apart, ultimately is the culture. The culture has to be at the top, and it has to be consistent through every layer of your organization. I don't want someone to come to me and if this has happened and say, well, code enforcement wasn't really nice to me. And and I'm like, okay, well, and you hear that enough and you go and say, you know what, let's go make sure that we are preaching our customer service techniques throughout every layer of our organization. It doesn't mean a code enforcement person is not going to have a bad day. It's not going to mean Jerome doesn't have a bad day, but you set the culture of expectation. And then what you do is you find the leaders with that experience who are already bought into the same value system of that culture. And then that's where you're not forcing people and telling them what to do. These people are leading in their natural ways because they have the same values and outcomes that you want to enforce on this city. That's where we have been so successful. But it all starts with the people that you bring in and how you bring them in, and then how you treat them once you get them in the door. So the culture is what I would say is so key.
And the culture, along with the ability to manage a crisis. And I want to talk a little bit about what the could have been, might have been, if this storm would have delivered what Chief Titus was sitting 10 minutes before that storm flipped and put all the
Right.
energy north of us. He was saying, be prepared. This is going to devastate us. It's really going to hurt.
Yes.
And we were talking that way. He walked down the hallway, came back and said, I really need to make sure everybody knows I wasn't lying. When this storm flipped, he wanted to really reiterate how he was presenting real fact.
Yes.
If that storm wouldn't have done that flip, we would have been in trouble. And people need to understand that we're not hurt like our fellow groups around us, our little pockets of areas, the beach fronts right now, the debris side of things. Pick up your yard, clean up things, help your neighbors, bag them up the right way. They'll be put them on the streets as normal. We can operate in normal where other people can't.
Correct.
About it a little bit.
Yeah, so it was you and your conversation with Chief Titus is based on a small little wobble of what that storm did. You know, it was coming at us for so long, and my words were, I do not see a way for us to avoid a serious impact. And, you know, I think it was based on the wobble that it did north, and then the way that the band was actually circling of it, and we just did not get as much as we could have. I mean, I don't know how to tell people what this is the best case scenario for the city of Northport. And if we know that, and we know that people to the north of us are having challenges, then we should be reaching out. And that's what I talk about, you know, helping the county or donating to the county. And I believe they have something set up through United Way for them to help the county, which would be great if people can help them. But people helped us when we needed it. So I do believe in making sure that you help give back. And I do believe in reciprocal relationships. They should not be one ways. I don't do one way relationships. So again, it sat on me last night to go do something. And, you know, when I talked to the county administrator, he said he'd be happy to have me up there. So I'm taking my tail up there tomorrow and just seeing how I can help. And if I can't help, I'm not going to get in the way. And at the very least, I'm going to learn to bring back here to Northport to make sure that our EOC is even stronger and better, because, you know, they have a broader scope of what they are accountable for in the county, and we can learn from that. But at the end of the day, we should all be very, very grateful and blessed for what happened to us, and help anyone out to the north that we can in any way that we can.
And, you know, I had a couple chances to sit down with Chief Titus, and amazing gentleman, by the way. Like all of our chiefs and deputy chiefs that I've spent time with, a lot of our EOC representation is amazing, great information, great leaders, great leadership. All of those things being said, that line, community with unity, is inside the walls at City Hall.
Agreed. I would agree with that. You should see how our staff interacts with themselves. You know, you should see how they truly care about each other. There's an authenticity there that is not sort of manufactured. It is an environment where people can, everyone knows you spend more time with the people at work than you do with your family at home. And that means a lot to your peace of mind. One of the reasons why I came down here was for, a different quality of life. And with that quality of life comes being with people who are more grounded and rooted into the children's sports or activities that you can get to, as opposed to just being in a rat race every day long. So I love the employees that we have. I love what they do for us. We try to thank them every time that we can. I know that they know that they're appreciated, and we do that in multiple ways by not only creating a day-to-day environment for them to be successful, but you got to also challenge them and train them professionally in professional development so that they grow as professionals. But at the end of the day, which I've always said and I always will, I will care more about you as a person than I will as a professional, because I want people to be happy. If you're not happy, what can we do to fix that? Because I believe that happiness is a choice, and we've got to give them the right tools in the toolbox to make that choice to be happy.
You know, Welland Park is a up and growing part of our city, and we're proud to have them in our city. And they, I want to highlight something, and I think you know the story, but when I was talking with Chief Titus about this storm, he had indicated that our fire station in that area, the guys were committed to staying in that fire station for the citizens in that area.
Right.
I don't want to give them any more kudos because they're first responders, and all of them is really equal. They're all equal. But to me, I think the citizens need to understand what they were committing to in that one station particularly.
So absolutely. So, you know, we always thank our employees every single day. Our first responders, we thank them for their service every single day. Most of us cannot imagine putting our lives on the line to save someone else's life during a time of disaster. And what these individuals are telling you is, even though we know that we're supposed to get out of this location because it might harm us, we're more concerned about what may harm you. And that is, it's noble, it's real, it should be commended. They were out helping people get out of vehicles that they shouldn't have been in right before the storm came. And then the very next morning, I guess this would have been Thursday today is Friday, I think. It would have been like Thursday at 2 or 3 a.m. They were out there trying to, scour the streets and see what had happened and what needs to be accomplished so that we can get to the backlog of people who needed help, and we couldn't get out to them because the winds were so high during Hurricane Milton. So our first responders are a selfless group of people, and I believe that's what it takes to be successful at it, and they're all successful at what they do. The heart and compassion of our first responders can not be measured, but I can tell you it's as high as anyone else I've ever seen in any job I've ever been in.
I didn't get to spend a lot of time with Chief Garrison, but can you talk about what our police department in because they're kind of different in that they have their own building and operations going at the same time. Can you talk about how that coordination happens and what they do during a crisis like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, from a police standpoint, they're trying to make sure that, they are prepared as soon as the boots have to be back on the ground, because whether you're talking about enforcing a curfew or making sure, like when daylight came back to us on Thursday, a lot of our street lights were out. So, they had to get out there to make sure that, traffic, which hopefully people weren't out there, were doing correctly in that. They have a backlog of calls that they have to go back to as well. The same thing with the fire while they're tracking things as they come in. But the police, they have, I always say that they have certain vehicles that allow them to sort of get to hard to reach areas and hard to reach people. Under Chief Garrison, I know we were talking about Chief Titus earlier. Chief Garrison is a phenomenal chief, and again, heart bigger than the moon. I mean, just a great guy, always trying to get it right, always trying to make sure he works within our system. And one thing that I saw on the Tampa, from the Tampa mayor, she was like, if you stay here, you're gonna die. I mean, like, those were some serious words that she said to her community. And while I feel like our people want to say that, they don't sort of hit that sort of trigger button on people, because that's a hard thing for some people to maybe deal with. And you might put just as much pressure on them with those words that you do with them needing to leave. I love the way our Chief Titus and Chief Garrison make sure that they communicate publicly with our citizens, letting them know the sense of urgency that they should have while giving them the information that they need in order to get to where they should be. So it's a very delicate process, but I think they do it very well.
They do, and the commitment across the board, from police department, fire, the public works department, the canals. Everybody out there has complaints, and they don't. I want to be careful here, because the people that do have something to be said, it's okay to say it post event, what I would encourage is that you're factually correct. So before you put things on social media, at least do your research, ask the questions, and find out why. There are a lot of reasons why we're not doing bulk pickup like we did with Ian. We didn't get hit like that, and other communities have. Those resources are better off. And when I was speaking with Jason earlier, we think we can manage this as a standard protocol. We don't have to expose ourselves to cost or resources into our community, but we are resource specific targeting for our community, which is a different beast, like tarping and things like that we need. Ice for people who don't have things, water. Those are essential, right?
Yes, but you're thinking. You said you talked about people whether they're complaining or whether they're making a comment, checking their facts. That's not the way this world works anymore. This world works in the push of a button, two types of button, and I'm hitting send, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. And that's the world we live in. I mean, it's not just our community, that's just the world that we live in. So knowing that we live in that, when you get those responses, and you just said it perfectly, of the defense of why we've made the choice to self-police ourselves in this particular debris management situation, based on the things that based on the experience and the expertise of our people, we believe that we can handle this. Now, that's going to work for 90% of the people. The other 10% of the people are going to send their message. You're going to respond to them and give them the facts, and they're still not going to be able to accept it, and they're going to want to send more messages. We have to learn that when we've responded and we've answered and we know this is what we're doing and why we're doing it, we have to not keep trying to feel like we have to sort of justify the existence of what we want to do. This is what we are doing, and this is why we are doing it. If you have more problems with what we're doing, feel free to reach out to one of the city's leadership on an individual basis, but we're not going to keep going back and forth with you on a social media platform or some sort of internet platform to have that type of discussion. That's not the right forum for it. We are available, and like I said earlier in this video, multiple different ways at all times of the day. We're not running or hiding from anyone, but we're not going to keep going back and forth with you and engage you on something that we believe is in the best interest for all of our citizens.
Yeah, and I all these things that I've watched, the responses from the communications team, Jason, Chief Titus getting out there, you being very available. I got to tell you, I've done a little bit of research around the state of Florida, and I got to believe that you're probably one of the only city managers that once a month makes himself available on social media live for questioning for 1 to 2 hours once a month. I don't. Is there another one that does that? Do you know?
I don't know, but that's not asking a lot, in my opinion. It's like,
no, but we also have we have staff that comes on and does it. We have our commissioners who rotate and they do it. Availability is here not only if you call and ask or if you email, all these things you can do, but it's also through social media that we're pushing content and Q&As. And we got groups like Northport Forward doing their thing. We've got Kiwanis groups doing their things. All these things matter in the collective of a city that's growing.
Well, and to your point, maybe this year we change things. Maybe I don't go out as much. I'm getting old. When you get to be my age, you'll feel what I'm feeling, but you are a few years away from me. But I am getting old, sir. Maybe I need to calm it down. Maybe I need to sit down and just get a cushy desk job that doesn't require me to be out in the community as much as I need to be. How you feel about that?
No. If I have to do it, you have to do it.
No, I was messing with you. So
I know you were. I know you were. Because first off, I'm older than you.
Right. Maybe by a year or two.
Yeah. Listen,
So first, community engagement is a lost art form, and it is dying. And it is dying because people are getting attacked for doing it. Our elected officials, your city manager, we don't sign up to be abused in public, but sometimes it happens and you have to accept it, and it's part of the job and you have to roll with it. But people are being driven away from our industry of public administration because of the behavior that is happening in our collective society, not just Northport. I'm talking about collectively, like in the country right now. And that's a shame. The only result that that's going to end is you're going to have less qualified people who want to do this job, and then more opportunity for mistakes and errors to occur. I enjoy community engagement. I always have, and I always will. I think it's your chance to tell your story. It's your chance to get out information that you know to be true. And if someone questions, challenges you or whatever, you have the right to go back and figure it out and come back. And if you made a mistake, you say, I'm sorry. You say it. You say you're sorry. You say it once, you mean it, and you move on. I think I've told you this. I'm not a big believer of apologizing over and over. You say it once, you mean it, and then go. But you have to do that. And you have to be willing to stand up in public and say, I did that and I made a mistake. So I like that kind of transparency and accountability in the role that I'm in. And I hope that as we do this and others around us see it, then they'll see it in other jurisdictions and maybe they'll do more, because you're not going to resolve or reduce detention in your community by hiding in an office in City Hall. That's not going to get it done. You got to get out there at some point and look people in the eyes and have conversations with them. And when I say that, I want to be clear. Not every conversation we have with the citizens that we see are negative conversations. We hear so much good energy when we're out in public. And that's how you know that you're making a difference, because we represent the voice of all the citizens that we see collectively. We don't represent the voice of the citizens that we see in a smaller circle who have challenges and we have solutions. We represent the entire community. What I like about the entire community is they might say, out of 10 things that you did, yeah, you got 3 of them wrong, but I like those other 7. That's a lot different from a group of people who say, out of 10 things you did wrong, you did 10 wrong, and I don't like anything that you do. It's not possible for you not to like everything that the government does. So my challenge to those people the next year is going to say, before you tell me something you don't like about the city that we need to fix, what do you like about this city? What keeps you here? What makes you want to be here? And if you say nothing, then you know that that door has been closed and it may not be reopened. But everyone in this city should have something that they love about being in this city. We are too big, too great, and do too well at too many things.
Do you know why I know things are going well collectively?
How do you know, Mr. Rollins?
I know that because while there are groups of people that come to City Hall upset, they're not masses. There are large numbers, but overall, we've got, let's just say adults that can come to City Hall over something major discrepancy. I'll be light on the number and say 40,000. That's light. Okay. Minus all the kids and, people that are renting. But let's just say there are 40,000 people. There's not 40,000 people marching all over City Hall and beating the drums and saying I'm upset. So, I said this to you before. When I did my interview with Rick Severance up at Wellham Park, I asked him how does he look at the outcome of the downtown area? How does he take in, the good, bad, and the ugly, and how does he interpret that? And he said, I listen to everybody. He said, but how I know I'm doing everything the correct way is the 90 plus people who aren't saying anything to me. They're just going downtown and they know I'm bringing it and they know what's coming and I'm keeping them informed. And, it's that temperamental ground that everybody has to walk, because I've said this before. I don't think everybody gets what they want. I'm not getting everything I want as a citizen, but you know what? It doesn't take my pride away. I love my city. I love what we're doing. I love how it's being built. Is it perfect? No, I don't know any city that is. I didn't come from a city that's perfect.
So, so right. Rick Severs has a great perspective. And, I always call myself, I try to be a people pleaser, but I'm not an every person pleaser. And I know because it's not possible. So, I give my best and I do my best. But I was thinking about, I read in the paper the other day that your son, about one of the candidates, wants to come and join our board. And they asked him his opinion of the city manager. And he says, well, I think he pushes people away and pushes people out. One, I've never met the guy a day in my life. And then two, how can someone be so worried about pushing people away as much as I make myself available and expose myself? If anything, my honesty has left me so exposed to any and everyone, but yet he said I was pushing people away. So you have to know, and you have to have a certain level of confidence that 98% has your back and you are doing the right thing. And the 2%, you hopefully that number will go to 1% or 0% one day. But at the same time, our energy and effort has to be on collectively making sure that the citizens of this city have what they need to be successful and a high quality of life. And that's what I believe that we're doing. And I believe that's what our commissioners are doing on a daily basis.
But I think you said something earlier that it's not always the same people at the 2% because they're not disagreeing with every decision.
Right, yeah, you shouldn't be in it's 2% all the time. It should fluctuate. Again, you cannot like 6 things the city does. Tell me about the 4 that you do like. What do you like about the city? When that's how you have a balance of perspectives and opinions that make the city move forward. And we have a lot more of those people than not. And this is not. We're not. You and I right now are not throwing a broad blanket on any person or any group of people. We're just saying that based on a community that is healthy, this is what it looks like. It means that when you do something, city manager, that I don't like, I want to tell you about it because I got an opinion about it. And I'm like, thank you. But then I would also like to hear from you when you find 1 or 2 things that we do well that you do like. They may not have nothing to me about me. Well, I like social services, and you had nothing to do with that, Mr. Manager, but I love them. Okay, fine. I don't need credit. I don't need that. That's for the team anyway. But the team would like to hear you say that. That social services example would like to hear you say that. So why don't you tell them that and tell them how good you feel about them or whatever. There just has to be a better balance as we receive our criticism and we celebrate our wins from people who know that, look, Northport isn't perfect. City manager is definitely not perfect, but they are trying very hard, and Northport is a great place to live, and I'm glad that I'm here.
That now that you've been here, we're 2.5 years, right? 3. Woo, woo. Now that you've been here collectively,
my senior year,
the whole overview for you at 3 years on how things are going. What is your assessment now that you're here 3 years in? Now you can kind of call yourself a Northport person, embedded, because 3 years of being a city manager, you are embedded into a lot of different topics and conversations now than you were before. How does that overview look for Jerome and his family?
Okay, I'm going to answer that 2 ways, on the personal side and then the professional side. So on the personal side, we love being here. As we were getting ready for the storm, this was the first storm that we actually had to put shutters up in our home, and people were just so helpful to, ask for assistance, give assistance. Power went out. Drew was outside the next morning. People were giving her coffee because people she sees that she walks around the neighborhood with. And like I said, half of our community had power, half of it didn't. We didn't have power for a while. But, it really shows you how this community can extend its arms to embrace someone who is different. And I'm different in a lot of ways in this community. I am. I just am. but we don't feel that way. We feel like people have made us welcome and made us at home, and we are so grateful for it. And this quality of life that we thought we moved down here for is just as good as we imagined it. And the people who keep checking on us, you know, and we love them from up north, who say, "Oh, you guys need to move back up north because of blah blah blah." Listen, everything that we deal with here is the price and the cost of living here. We're not trading it. We like it here. It is a great quality of life here. So we love it on that angle. And when you talk about on the professional side, the first 3 years were the easy 3 years. The first 3 years were the easy 3 years. We are now running into issues, and I'm past the referendum. We'll get that passed. I'm in January now, so catch up with me to January. So in January, we're going to have the fiscal condition analysis of what our finances look like in the city. We should have the economic development analysis to talk about the growth of the city and what we can and can't pay for, and when we can't pay for it. The capital investment long-term vision that will tell us how much we need to pay and how we need to sort of prioritize the progress of getting the city up to where it needs to be. Without having a crystal ball, I am going to tell you, we don't have enough money, debt capacity. We don't have enough money to pay for everything in the time frame that we need to pay for it. That is going to be something that is going to be a challenge to fix. There is no simple solution. There is no easy way out of it. It is something that's going to come with some hard commission and community conversations about what the city does to move itself to the next step in its growth cycle of being a smaller city that has decided it wanted to grow to now tackling the problems of growth and what comes with it. Financial management is going to be probably the theme of our next fiscal year, as we're going to talk a lot about money we don't have and things that we need. And it's going to be our job collectively, me, my staff, as well as the commissioners, to figure it out, to do it and make it as least painful on our citizens as possible. That's
so I'm going to throw a question or a comment kind of question up from Chuck here. Do you believe the city just shot themselves in the foot as it relates to the referendum and the raises that they are seeking? A lot of unhappy people. For the record, I support the referendum. I think raising the referendum.
So do I believe the city shot themselves in the foot? Well, you're talking to the person who made the recommendation for shooting them in the foot. So no, I don't think they shot themselves in the foot. I think that the referendum and the raises are two totally separate items. The raise that they got had zero to do with the millage rate increase that you have enjoyed for the last 5 years. You have enjoyed this commission and what they have provided to you the last 5 years without a millage rate increase. The referendum is a vote to take care of the infrastructure and disaster recovery of this city. How are those two things related? They are not related at all. You're like, oh, well, you know, the timing of it and the timing could have been better. Do you know that's why Northport is in the hole that it's in now? Because every time somebody wants to do something, the timing could be better. You have to realize there's never going to be a perfect time for anything. And when you look at the value of the job that they do, they deserve to be paid at a rate that is more in line with the work that they do, period. And anyone who doesn't understand that or agree with that, you know, if you become a commissioner, donate your salary to charity. I got a couple of charities you can donate it to if you don't want it. But people who are living in this day and age, who have to deal with the inflation and everything that's happened over this country in the last 8-10 years, however far back you want to go, it needs to be properly done. And we are right sizing two things at one time. And there may be some unhappy people out there, but I can guarantee you there's lots more people who are happy. The unhappy people will never understand the value of the job, and that's their choice and that's their prerogative. I can't do anything about that, but we are making sure that we correct the wrongs of the past today.
And, you know, as far as like the raises are concerned, when was the last raise?
They get a raise every year, but the amount of the raise has been limited by a chart within our ordinance that did not move. So when the chart was adopted in 2018, the commission put in their own arbitrary numbers in that chart because they thought that chart would have paid the commissioners too high a level, which is fine because there is a debate on whether you should be paid as a city commissioner 70%, 80%, 85% of what a county commissioner makes and does. That's a debate and argument I could have for you any day, anytime. But let's just say let's say for argument's sake, it's 75%. Like, you know what? We think it's 75% of what a county commissioner should make. Well, the chart that was adopted never said, well, we're going to slowly increase this one factor in that chart until we get to that 75. It just kept it where it was. So as inflation and everything else moved like this, their salaries moved a lot slower and the gap became bigger and bigger. What it should have been was, okay, we don't want to go here and we're here, but we want to close that gap as time goes by. And so all it did was just get greater and make the difference bigger. And so what we're doing now is we're closing that gap over the next 2 years through adopting the chart that is in place. And then after that, we should hit the 100,000 threshold. And if that commission comes in at that time and they say, you know what, we want to cap our salary, cap it. We no longer want it to be population based, take it away, but figure it out. But make no mistake that having a salary that is better in alignment with what our citizens and commissioners need today will only increase the amount of people that we have and the diversity of candidates that we have who want to serve our city.
What do you say about the rate being increased because the property taxes have increased?
Which rate being
Or
increased?
the rate not being increased, the property because of the property values.
Yes.
Chuck had asked that.
Is that a bad thing? Because let's be clear. If those property rates had not gone up, where do you think the extra money was going to come from? It would come from us raising that millage rate.
Right.
So it's almost like you're complaining that we're using that revenue to balance ourselves, which is the part of a natural budgeting process, and then not giving any credit for not raising your millage rate for the last 5 years. You can't have it both ways. But let me tell you this: what if our home properties don't increase at a substantial level this year, and we raise your millage rate? What's going to be the complaint then?
Yeah, what he said was, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that it's your justification for not raising the millage rate.
That's not my justification for not raising my millage rate. Your property homes are going to increase. You want the value of your property homes to increase. If you're going down in your property value, that means crime and everything else could be up to make people not want to be where you are. We are going to provide a great quality of life, so your property values are going to increase. We have also increased other taxes, whether it was the solid waste fee and other fees that were in our control over the last of the 3 years that I've been here. We're done. There's nothing left there for us to raise. So when we get to our budget next year, guess what we're going to look at raising? You guessed it right, boys and girls. The millage rate. But that millage rate increase needs to be baked into a holistic picture of a fiscal condition analysis, an economic development report, CIP. You shouldn't just raise it. In my mind, I think we should raise it incrementally, slowly, so the citizens feel a less pinch each and every time, 5%, 5%, 5%, or whatever. But it's going to happen. And we have tried to delay it as much as possible. So then as soon as we do raise it, there are going to be complaints that, well, now you're raising the millage. You complain when we raise the millage. You complain when we found extra fines and fees in order to make our budget balance. You complain that we are living off of the high values of our home as if that's something that we should not be doing. I have no idea how to please anyone who feels those three things in our city or society. I don't know if I got anything for you.
Yep, there you go. So Ginger Miranda. Hi, Ginger. It is important for the residents to understand the fiscal implications of what can or can't be done as the city grows. I'm glad the city will educate residents for the coming year. Your thoughts on that?
That's great. I had a chart that I just downloaded from LinkedIn. I was going to try to pull it up. I don't think I can pull it up. I might have to get somebody to give me something. It showed like three bubbles, and it showed people who want, lower taxes, low density versus high density, and everything else. And the overlap was, not possible when you really get to that sweet spot of what everybody wants. It is going to cost us, as Ginger said, as we talk about the city with the growth and what we have to do with it. It is going to cost us. The best thing that we can do is have frequent, open, transparent conversations about what that looks like. And you know what I haven't even mentioned in this entire interview?
What's that?
My next focus after November 5th, November 6th, after the election, police headquarters. Where are you at with that?
We need it.
It's not solved for yet. We have to figure these things out. And we have limitations. Even, when the borrowing authority passes, that's not the pathway for the police headquarters. It's too big. It was never intended to be. So we still have to just turn the page and keep going into what comes next. What I hope comes next are issues and challenges that are related to the work and not related to personalities. We got to get past the personality differences and just say, you know what, look, we don't have to always agree, like each other, walk holding hands. That's not what we're here for. We're here to solve problems. That's what we do. We solve problems. And we try to do them in the way that allows us to have good long-term relationships over the course of time. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to just let's go solve some problems.
So something else that Chuck is always concerned about is the storm drainage and the utilities district. I know we're looking at all. We have got to look at everything as a 65-year-old city, really replacing some infrastructure and all these things that are out there. Right. And believe it or not, it's all coming to a head because it's 65 years old.
Right. And that's just a fact, John. I mean, the stormwater and the system that we're talking about, we had the public meeting where we talked about the cause and effect flow of what's happening and what we're having to deal with. But at the end of the day, if our stormwater system was built for a 10-year storm survival and we're now getting 25 and 50-year storms, it is going to impact our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is aging. There is no way to replace that entire system, not quickly and or cheaply. So we're going to have to figure out a way to supplement what we're doing and what our system can maintain as we move on with life. But those are going to be part of some of these harder conversations, because when we tell you what the solution is and we tell you how much it costs, you can't just say, well, we don't want to do that because we don't want to pay for it. I mean, that's not the best way to ensure the future of this city. We're going to have to figure these things out. And I know you mentioned Chuck's name, but Chuck isn't the only one that's concerned about our infrastructure. He's not the only one concerned about our water. There are people out there. So we're not just saying this to Chuck. We're saying this to everyone. And that's what I mean when I say people get involved. People come to the table. People have these input conversations. Showing up for 3 minutes with a microphone and talking to the commission, that's not the most productive way to convince your commissioners. Call them up, have coffee with them, meet them in their office, meet them for lunch, have them meet you when you get off of work, take a phone call in the car while you're driving, whatever it is. But those are the ways that you get to your elected officials as they are the visionaries of where the city is going. If you have an operational issue that you need to be solved, that's how you get to me and my team and what needs to be done. But they are above that line and we are below that line, and we keep them separated and we work very well together as a group.
We've done a lot of these, and being part of the EOC, I watched what the communication side of things was. As 97.5, I'm the operations manager, and I have to tell everyone we don't apologize for what we're doing. We actually stand behind what we're doing. We were up for one storm, and we took our antenna down to move it to Public Works, right. And it's laying on the ground at Public Works. And 97.5 FM, as it normally is actually still down. But there's a manufacturing situation occurring that we need a base for our antenna.
Mhm.
Well, first storm affected the manufacturer of the base to the south of us. So then we went to Venice and we met with another manufacturer. Well, we don't know how he's weathered this storm. So we've literally are as a radio station trying to get communications out. Uh, if we have another storm, which we've got two brewing out there, collectively we all need to be telling everyone WKDW radio is internet based. We still have internet, and I apologize that we don't have FM right now, but I just explained to you why. It's coming as soon as we get that base. It's going to get installed and be operative. We're trying to get our emergency antenna up in the meantime so that we can get communications out.
But you were up in our building broadcasting and helping out citizens receive information over Hurricane Milton.
Yes.
Let's not make perfect the enemy of good. We will get to perfect. And people always tell me, like, well, you're trying to get Northport to be perfect. I'm just trying to get to normal. Forget perfect. Let's get to normal, and then we will go up from there. Let's just get you in, which we have. You were set up. You were there in our EOC.
We were broadcasting.
You did what you could during this one. The goal should be to be incrementally better next time. Every step we go, every time we go. But let's not sit. Yeah.
I'm going to say something as it relates to the city, though, because the creativity and the accessibility and the conversations. My son Michael, when I was having trouble with the internet, as the storm really got closer to us, everything was just temperamental. Because of our live streaming capability,
Right.
Michael went live with his internet, and he played through good internet through the system. So our servers in Phoenix and for the radio station, so that wasn't in jeopardy. But we're internet based. We're an internet based community radio station, adapting to the things that were happening during a storm.
Right.
And I was watching you guys do the same thing.
Yes.
And that's what truly this is all about. This, when you're in a crisis mode, and the reason I brought it back to crisis for a second is because some of these things that we can do when we're not in a crisis mode, when we're just trying to have a conversation like the referendum,
right?
It helps us through a crisis mode, or maybe prevents a crisis mode. And people need to understand that.
Relationships are built before the crisis, not during the crisis. You lean on them when you need them. But, and so in my mind, John, you were bringing like this old 1950 kind of radio that was probably like the size of a Foot Locker trunk and had 1,000 knobs on it, and you're going to have little headphones on and speaking to this microphone and speaking to that. And you were like, this is still 2024. We have a better way of doing it, but we just had to figure out to make sure that you had the right things that you needed so that you could, broadcast out perfectly and as you needed. And I think you told me about the home base being not in Florida, which is helpful, knowing that Florida could be going through what it's going through. People don't want to see all the sausage being made, trust me. But as the sausage is getting done, we want them to have the result that they can have so that they can then lean on and say, man, the city did that and they did it well. But they don't know all the things that we had to go through to get it done, and nor should they. They shouldn't be concerned with that. That's not their job. Their point is go do your job so that I can see the results of it, and then I'll be happy and move on and make sure that my life is what it should be. So people, I don't want them to see the sausage being made. I just want them to see the good result of it. And then we internally can sort of just high five and shake our heads and say we did that.
Absolutely. Well, we've been on for about an hour and 25 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes or so. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in as far as the opening of City Hall and what's going to happen there?
So City Hall, Monday's the holiday, Columbus Day, so we won't be open for City Hall, but we open back on Tuesday. So when we get back next week, we will sort of, catch our breath, get our feet back underneath us, and, get back to what we would call a normal schedule and situation. We ask for people just to be patient with us, be patient with FB FBL as much as you can as they get us back online as fast as possible. Please reach out to the county, whether it's United Way or however way that you can help them, and recognize that there are people who are worse off than we are right now. Please take care of yourselves and your neighbors, and recognize that people might need help, so handiwork help or some shutters or some sandbag or whatever they need. Please just make sure that we help out each other as we can. Thank your first responders, and thank every city employee that you see as they stepped up to help you through yet another disaster while leaving their loved ones most of the time somewhere else to be in our building. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. So we have to acknowledge and respect that. And, at the end of the day, like I said, when you asked me how do I feel about the personal and professional, the next 3 years are going to be a lot more challenging than the first 3 years, because we've got a lot of hard financial problems to solve for. And it can be challenging if you look at it all in one big bite, but that's not how we're going to accomplish that. We're going to take it one step at a time, one thing at a time. We're going to communicate and be transparent and inclusive with our community, and then everyone can see us every step of the way. So I'll stop there. But I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, and all that you're doing. And I will just add in closing that the staff who worked shifts at the EOC have family members too. I had talked to Jason. He is at his girlfriend's house cleaning her house up now. Think about the dedication that they all had to be at the EOC, want to be there, want to provide the services, want to get everything structured, want to do this and want to get things done, but also keep them in your thoughts and prayers, because all of them, even you too, you're still attending meetings, you're still doing these things, you're still on the phone, you're still working behind the scenes. Just because City Hall isn't open doesn't mean staff's not carrying dual rules, taking care of their home and taking care of business at the city. So have some pride, share this information, get this information to every citizen. This isn't done for PR. I do this as a volunteer. They do it as a commitment to our city. And yes, it's a job, but it goes beyond that. This is a great team of people. Jerome?
Yeah, I about to say, anyone can do the job. To do it well, you need to have passion and love for what you're doing. And you have to be committed to something that's bigger than yourself. And our team, from top to bottom, I applaud them for carrying that every single day in everything they do.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure, sir. You got it.
Be well, Northport. 97.5 John Rawlings, Real Talk Radio. A quick shout out to Remax Palm Realty for sponsoring the tower. We really do appreciate it, and we have more sponsors coming on board. So thank you so much. And if you want to be a sponsor of the radio station, my cell phone number is 941-391-4663. Look forward to working with you. Thanks, and have a blessed day.